Find strength in adversity. The truth is that our finest moments are most likely to occur when we are feeling deeply uncomfortable, unhappy, or unfulfilled. For it is only in such moments, propelled by our discomfort, that we are likely to step out of our ruts and start searching for different ways or truer answers. Be persistent. It's okay to be discouraged. It's not okay to quit. To know you want to quit, but to plant your feet and keep inching closer until you take the impenetrable fortress you've decided to lay siege to in your own life. That's persistence. Be resilient. It is essential to make oneself used to putting up with a little. Even the wealthy and the well-provided are continually met and frustrated by difficult times and situations. It is in no man's power to have whatever he wants, but he has it in his power not to wish for what he hasn't got, and cheerfully make the most of the things that do come his way. Believe in yourself. Not to assume it's impossible because you find it hard, but to recognize that if it's humanly possible, you can do it too. Live in the present. Focus on the moment, not the monster that may or may not be up ahead. Practice gratitude. We humans are unhappy in large part because we are insatiable. After working hard to get what we want, we routinely lose interest in the object of our desire. Rather than feeling satisfied, we feel a bit bored, and in response to this boredom, we go on to form even grander desires. Be kind. Life is so hard. How can we be anything but kind? Be the hero in your movie. Heroes are heroes because they are heroic in behavior, not because they won or lost. Control your mind. The wise man is neither raised up by prosperity nor cast down by adversity, for always he has striven to rely predominantly on himself and to derive all joy from himself. Adversity strengthens the mind. Make the mind tougher by exposing it to adversity. Do not give up. In the meantime, cling tooth and nail to the following rule: not to give in to adversity, not to trust prosperity, and always take full note of Fortune's habit of behaving just as she pleases.
Be an outlier. People who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Ask questions. A wise man can learn more from a foolish question than a fool can learn from a wise answer. Take action. The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. Never stop learning. Anyone who stops learning is old, whether at 20 or 80. Anyone who keeps learning stays young. Stay optimistic. The pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. The optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty.
I am the wisest man alive, for I know one thing, and that is that I know nothing. A hero is born among 100. A wise man is found among 1,000. But an accomplished one might not be found even among 100,000 men. People are like dirt. They can either nourish you and help you grow as a person, or they can stunt your growth and make you wilt and die. Necessity is the mother of invention. To be afraid of death is only another form of thinking that one is wise when one is not. It is to think that one knows what one does not know. No one knows with regard to death whether it is not really the greatest blessing that can happen to man. But people dread it as though they were certain it is the greatest evil. Wealth is the parent of luxury and indolence, and poverty of meanness and viciousness, and both of discontent. The measure of a man is what he does with power. Good actions give strength to ourselves and inspire good actions in others. There are two things a person should never be angry at: what they can help and what they cannot. Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a harder battle. Excellence is not a gift, but a skill that takes practice. We do not act rightly because we are excellent. In fact, we achieve excellence by acting rightly. The untrained mind keeps up a running commentary, labeling everything, judging everything. Best to ignore that commentary. Don't argue or resist, just ignore. Deprived of attention and interest, this voice gets quieter and quieter and eventually just shuts up.
Number 12. Diversify your life. A ship should not ride on a single anchor, nor life on a single hope. (11) Stop pointing blame. Small-minded people blame others. Average-minded people blame themselves. The wise see all blame as foolishness. (10) Greatness takes time. No great thing is created suddenly. (9) You control your happiness. No one is ever unhappy because of someone else. (8) You control your worries. There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. 7) Stay positive. Men are disturbed not by the things which happen, but by the opinion about the things. 6) Invite difficulties. The greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it. Skillful pilots gain their reputation from storms and tempests. 5) Educate yourself. Only the educated are free. 4) Be patient. Nothing great is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer you that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen. 3) Attract positivity. Other people's views and troubles can be contagious. Do not sabotage yourself by unwittingly adopting negative, unproductive attitudes through your associations with others. 2) Happiness is within your power. Your happiness depends on 3 things, all of which are within your power: your will, your ideas concerning the events in which you are involved, and the use you make of your ideas. Number 1. Be content. He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has. Number 12. 6 rules for success. 1. Trust yourself. 2. Break some rules. 3. Don't be afraid to fail. 4. Ignore the naysayers. 5. Work like hell. 6. Give something back. 11. Be different. The worst thing I can be is the same as everybody else. I hate that. 10. Stay hungry. Be hungry for success. Hungry to make your mark. Hungry to be seen and to be heard and to have an effect. 9. The mind is the limit. As long as the mind can envision the fact that you can do something, you can do it. As long as you really believe 100%. 8. Forge your own path. What is the point of being on this earth if you are going to be like everyone else? 7. Work hard. You can't climb the ladder of success with your hands in your pockets. 6. Educate yourself. The more knowledge you have, the more you're free to rely on your instincts. 5. Attract positivity. Positive thinking can be contagious. Being surrounded by winners helps you develop into a winner. 4. Make them jealous. You have to remember something. Everybody pities the weak. Jealousy you have to earn. 3. Do not surrender. Strength does not come from winning. Your struggles develop your strengths. When you go through hardships and decide not to surrender, that is strength. 2. Do not quit. Learned helplessness is the giving up reaction, the quitting response that follows from the belief that whatever you do doesn't matter. 1. Live to conquer. For me, life is continuously being hungry. The meaning of life is not simply to exist, to survive, but to move ahead, to go up, to achieve, to conquer.
If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, "He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone." Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Now is the time to get serious about living your ideals. How long can you afford to put off who you really want to be? Your nobler self cannot wait any longer. Put your principles into practice now. Stop the excuses and the procrastination. This is your life. You aren't a child anymore. The sooner you set yourself to your spiritual program, the happier you will be. The longer you wait, the more you'll be vulnerable to mediocrity and feel filled with shame and regret, because you know you are capable of better. From this instant on, vow to stop disappointing yourself. Separate yourself from the mob. Decide to be extraordinary and do what you need to do now. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Don't just say you have read books. Show that through them you have learned to think better, to be a more discriminating and reflective person. Books are the training weights of the mind. Man is not worried by real problems so much as by his imagined anxieties about real problems. There is only one way to happiness, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. Any person capable of angering you becomes your master. He can anger you only when you permit yourself to be disturbed by him. Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. I laugh at those who think they can damage me. They do not know who I am. They do not know what I think. They cannot even touch the things which are really mine and with which I live. He is a wise man who does not grieve for things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has.
Top 12 Greatest Stoic Quotes. Seneca the Great. 12. Do not fall foul of consumerism. Until we have begun to go without them, we fail to realize how unnecessary many things are. We've been using them not because we needed them, but because we had them. "11. Be content. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. 10. Work on yourself. If you really want to escape the things that harass you, what you're needing is not to be in a different place, but to be a different person. 9. Stop procrastinating. While we are postponing, life speeds by. 8. Live in the present. True happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence upon the future, not to amuse ourselves with either hopes or fears, but to rest satisfied with what we have, which is sufficient. For he that is so wants nothing. 7. Be kind. Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. Six, be prepared. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. 5, overcome weaknesses every day. Every night, before going to sleep, we must ask ourselves, what weakness did I overcome today? What virtue did I acquire? 4, exercise your mind. Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. 3, be courageous. Throw me to the wolves, and I will return, leading the pack. 2, act virtuously. We are bad men living among bad men, and the only thing that can calm us, we must agree to go easy on one another. 1, fight against adversity. The bravest sight in the world is to see a great man struggling against adversity.
Setbacks lead to opportunity. A setback has often cleared the way for greater prosperity. Many things have fallen only to rise to more exalted heights. Suffering can be beautiful. Suffering becomes beautiful when anyone bears great calamities with cheerfulness, not through insensibility, but through greatness of mind. Separate internal and external matters.
Well, I'll tell you this, bro.
The chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals, not.
All right. So if you didn't know what that was the some stoic quotes. You know what I'm saying? If you were listening to some of those, man, hopefully you got a little taste of that, and you know what I mean, it helps you out a little bit. Sorry for the wait, you guys. I had to get everything situated. You know what I mean? Get irie a little bit and, you know what I mean, enjoy what I have to do. So, we are watching today the 28th Maori Battalion March to Victory. It's quite long, I must tell you. It's quite long. And I am going to be here. We're going to be here for the rest of it, for all of it. So, if you haven't got what you need to get to it now, do it now. You know what I'm saying? We're going to get this started. You know, we got a lot of people in here right now. It's all good. They'll come out the woodwork soon. Anyway, I'm not a father yet, so I don't have, you know, the benefit of enjoying Father's Day. But, and you know, my father, well, you don't know, but my father, he's somewhere in the wind, rolling stone. You know, still love him though. You know what I mean? Anyway, this is some good parade. What's good? What's good, Tewa? Tiawa. Yeah, let's go. Let's get it. We're gonna watch something. And you know what's so crazy? My last name is Bennett, and what I'm about to see now, I did a little bit of research. I didn't do research. Shout out to you for subscribing. Appreciate that. So what I learned, I watched like the first couple of seconds, and it threw me off. All right. So now I'm feeling like I got to take a DNA test. You know what I mean? Because it'd be kind of cool if I'm part of this family, if I'm part of this, a part of this culture. I'm not thinking too much into it, but you know, it's crazy when you're gonna see. Whoo-wee, man. But I do tell you what though, my girlfriend did treat me like it was Father's Day. She cooked me a great meal. You know, she's of a different culture. She tried making Jamaican food, and it worked out. She made some jerk chicken, some cabbage, some cabbage, and it was amazing. Shout out to everybody that's coming in the stream. I see y'all starting to show up, come through the woodworks. I like that. So, with all that being said, let me shut up and let's get into this video. It's kind of crazy because this video doesn't really have much. I don't know how it's set up, but it seems to me like it should be good. I'm hoping it's going to be a good one. See right there, that threw me off because his last name is Bennett as well. I know we're all over the place. What's good, Raymond? What's good? I know that that last name is everywhere, but when I saw that, I was like, okay, yeah, the universe works in mysterious ways, like I always say. But I never doubt it. So this would be pretty cool. Man.
Tēnā koutou I ngā aitua o te wā. E oku hoa o te rōpu atu matauenga. E mihi atu rā tēnei kia koutou katoa.
Hey, Heath, man. Shout out to you little boys, man.
Ngā kanohi ora. O tātou hoa maha. Kua huri ki te pō.
And the cure gonna be 8. That's what's up, man. 14, 12,
tēnei
and
wā
8. Ooh, 3 boys.
Mō rātau te honore. Mō rātau te koloria. Nā reira, ko rātau kia rātau. Ko tātau kia tātau, kia ora hui hui tātau katoa. This is the story of the Maori Battalion, told through the experiences of 5 of our comrades. It cannot hope to be a complete record, but at least it tries to demonstrate the price which these young men were prepared to pay for the privileges of citizenship. It is a story about young people who, along with the other units of the New Zealand Division, contributed to the division's
Hey, if you guys are in here, man, share the video. Let's get more people in here.
We hope that the young people of today can identify with some of the things which motivated Te Rōpū a Tūmatauenga, the 28th Maori Battalion.
They're walking up that hill.
E kore rātou e koro heketia, pēnei ia tātou e ora nei. E kore te wā e whakaruruhi, ngā tau rānei e whakakore ia rātou.
Translator, tell that much.
I te urunga mai o te rā, a tainua ki tōna ngarotanga, ka maumahara tātou kia rātou.
General, Field Marshal, Rommel, te rua te kau māwaru, ngā tamatoa atu matauenga, puta noa I te ao, ka whakatohia, ka whakatapua, ka whakanoa, tēnei karaki whakamaharatanga, I runga I te ingoa te tokotoru tapu, te atua matua tō tātou kaihanga, whakanoho ia tō wairu tapu kia rātou, ata whai tia rātou, manaki tia rātou, ke putei tō rangatiratanga mutunga kore, ko ihu karaiti hoki tō mātua riki, Amine.
Yeah, man, I've been actually, Hunt, I've been actually watching the New Zealand time zone, so I know when to actually stream now. You know what I mean?
Among the troops inspected on this occasion were many Maoris.
I wanted more people to come in and actually watch it with us, you know what I'm saying? So, if you in here, appreciate it, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to you, man.
The march past. It's hard to say which of the Empire's troops from overseas look best, but they're all good enough to prove better than any the enemy can produce.
The Maori Battalion was a World War II infantry unit. It was made up entirely of volunteers as a result of efforts made by Maori parliamentarians and tribes. As part of the New Zealand division, it saw action in Greece, Crete, North Africa, and Italy. One of its most resolute but respected enemy leaders was Erwin Rommel. The Desert Fox considered New Zealanders to be the finest troops on the Allied side.
This should be interesting, man. I'll always let go.
Over 3,500 Maori soldiers fought for God, king, and country. 2/3 of them were wounded or killed, contributing to the most grim and final legacy of war.
Also, if you got any commentary, you know, just don't be afraid to put it in the chat. You know what I'm saying? There's no judging over here. Hey man, I just love that. I like the way how y'all take care of our reggae, you know what I mean? So it's definitely beautiful and wonderful to always share cultures with people who are
War was a frequent element in the lives of the many societies of ancient Polynesia. Competition and revenge for insults or grievances were the main causes of conflict. In New Zealand, the Maori refined their warlike heritage to take into account the climate and terrain of their new home. The people lived intimately with their environment. This way of life ensured that war was fought in harmony with the seasons, a time to draw sustenance from the land and a time to fight for it. From birth to old age, men were trained in the skills of warfare. There are no medals to record their deeds. Valor is commemorated in art. British and colonial troops found in the Maori a staunch adversary. Their physique, fitness, endurance, and speed could not be bettered. Their shrewd military tactics so impressed the British that they recorded them and utilized them in wars from the Crimea to the Somme. These traditions of combat were passed down from generation to generation and were suddenly rekindled by a spark which ignited worldwide conflict. The Maori people were determined to play their part in their own way and began recruitment of a fighting unit ready to take up arms beside the Pākehā, their European counterparts.
It was amazing the number of people who came along to volunteer their services. It was some sort of look forward to excitement, going abroad and this sort of thing. So they came in their hundreds in the particular places we went to, on their horses, tie their horses outside, and one of my jobs was to drill them, give them sort of elementary training and sort of standing at ease, up to attention, slope arm with a broomstick and this sort of thing. And that made them very, very happy. And of course they were faking their ages and how old are you? Oh, 21. Some of them were 50. Are you married? No. And they had about 3 or 4 children. You know, it was really amazing.
There were 6 brothers in my family, but it wasn't an isolated case. There were many cases of Maori families who had 6 and 7 sons that went to the war.
There were the one-son families, and that was very difficult. I was one of them, and there were only 2 of us in the family, a sister, and the first thing my dad said when we were having tea, when New Zealand declared war against the Germans, he said, "There's plenty of time." That's all he said, plenty of time. And I thought to myself, well, it's going to be hard, all right? And I felt sorry for my mother. If I was to join, there'll be only 2 people left at home. However, when my friends started going for medical and so on, I thought to myself, well, I'm not going to be left behind. And it was a hard decision to make, to go to war.
Strict training under superb Pākehā leaders commenced. An initial problem was with the World War I uniforms issued.
And old Freddie Jones had to laugh. Yeah. And he said, oh, well, of course, he said, those uniforms are made under English specifications. See, they were built for Englishmen, not for New Zealanders. Or Maoris in particular. And you see these tight pants, you know, they couldn't hardly get their legs through them. And the sleeves were right down here, and the coats right down to the knees. And
Dad's army.
And they issued them with berets to match. Oh, yeah, well, they looked terrible. Now, those boys had to turn around and spend what little money they had to take them to some tailor and get them altered. And within a week or so, they were looking quite smart again.
In a deliberate move to ensure that the battalion be Maori in identity as well as name, it was divided into tribal companies. A company was made up of North Auckland tribes. B Company from Rotorua, Bay of Plenty, Taupo and the Coromandel. C Company comprised East Coast tribes, notably the Ngāti Porou and Rongo Whakaata. D Company covered a wider area where there were fewer Maori: Waikato, Hawke's Bay, Taranaki, Wellington, the South Island, Chathams and Stewart Island.
They parade again, 2,000 members of the 2nd New Zealand Expeditionary Force in Wellington before leaving for service overseas. For the second time in a quarter of a century, the manhood of the Dominion has heard and answered the call to imperial duty. So this is goodbye, good luck, and a safe return.
That's crazy.
The ship, I suppose it was supposed to carry about 2,000 people. And when we left New Zealand, we had 4,000 troops.
Sheesh.
And it was hard on the men. As far as the officers were concerned, of course, we had the deluxe accommodation and dining room and cocktail rooms and so on. It hadn't been changed in any way whatsoever. And it was a beautiful ship on top where the lounges were, but not down below. It was too cramped. And some of the men, of course, were below 2 decks, I think, below water level. And whenever I was on duty, I didn't feel like going down to the bottom decks. You had to go down and see your men, and the conditions weren't too good.
The original destination of the troop ship Aquitania was Egypt, where training would commence with New Zealand soldiers of the first echelon already there. The racist policies of South Africa meant that, for the Maori, leave in Cape Town was limited. During their period in South Africa, the evacuation at Dunkirk took place. An invasion of England appeared imminent, and the convoy changed course from Egypt to Britain.
Well, the main thing, I suppose, is the route march we had every day. We just about walked to England. Every day we went round and round the ship, and it was a big ship. And going round it, oh boy, it's mighty long. We felt as if we walked to England.
The relationship between the Pākehās and Maoris was terrific. They got along very, very well together in all respects. In fact, Pākehās, I think, were nearly as bad, if not worse, and then the Maoris were getting into mischief.
I think it was a normal relationship at home, you know?
Yeah.
Between the Pākehās, there was no difference. As a matter of fact, it was great. No difference whatsoever. Yeah. It was beautiful.
We had, I think, about 5 senior nurses on. They were the only women on board. And as time went on, you know, we were on the water 6 or 8 weeks altogether. You can see on his face here, you know he put the same. These nurses looked prettier and prettier as the journey continued.
Better not say how.
Yeah, that's for a long time.
But,
anything look good to you.
16th June 1940, Gourock, Scotland. The Maori Battalion arrive in the United Kingdom, keen to protect its shores from the Nazi threat. Another step on the great adventure that has caused many of them to leave their tribal homes 17,000 miles away. They bring with them their language, songs, and cultural expressions of war. An easy marriage with the British traditions of army discipline. For the duration of the war, reinforcements from New Zealand will keep the battalion's ranks filled with an average of 800 men, mostly young.
We should do the same things as the other battalions. We didn't want to be mollycoddled or anything. Whatever they did, we had to do it too. And, well, at the same time, I think we were feeling that we'll be better than them.
There was no tribal jealousy, was there, during the war?
I don't think so.
There was rivalry, friendly rivalry, but there wasn't jealousy.
No.
Or antagonism.
No. Even competition among platoons, weren't there?
Oh, yes, amongst companies.
I know mine was the smartest in the A company.
Oh, yes. Their officers spent too much time.
Is that him when he was younger? That's crazy.
So he was always spick and span.
I can remember Rangi Logan in charge of headquarters, training headquarters to beat the rest of the companies, and he was very, very disappointed the way they were drilling. And Rangi Logan said, "If you had skirts, you'll be cheap mutton."
I like this guy's
marching on to parade. You see, the A company would be, of course, first on the mark, and then B company would march on again, because when the orders to halt were given, everybody was trying to put on a good show, and you hear A company say, under their breath, "The penny divers." So then C company would march on, and you'd hear the Rotorua boys say, "The cowboys." Halt! C company, halt! The cowboys. And of course, so long along the line.
Fears of an invasion of England diminished. In April of '41, the Maori were rushed from training in Egypt to assist in the defense of Greece. It was a catastrophe. The German forces and Luftwaffe overwhelmed them. Hopelessly outnumbered, they were forced to retreat from their first taste of combat.
Oh, boy.
Attention immediately shifted south to the island of Crete. The battalion followed. The increased use of fighter planes and bombers in World War II meant that those who controlled Crete and her airports would have control too over much of the Mediterranean Sea. The gentle existence of the Cretan people would soon be ruptured by every violation that war could offer.
Noch aber ist England im Besitz von Kreta.
On the morning of the 20th of May, 1941, we were sitting having breakfast under some walnut trees just below this mound when we heard a continuous buzz from the sea. And we looked over and the sky was black on the horizon.
The sky was
it was
black.
the beginning of the invasion. It was a beautiful sight. And because it was something new, something unique to any warfare, we were dumbfounded. And we looked at the planes in amazement more than anything else. When we got into our positions up here, the planes were flying almost level with the positions we had and so on, and we could see the doors open with the first parachutists ready to jump and so on, but they flew straight past us and we couldn't do anything about it, although they were close for any person to shoot at. But above us were fighter planes crisscrossing all the time, only 10 feet above us, so we couldn't do a thing.
Soldier and historian Dan Davin later wrote, "The sight was inexpressibly sinister, for each man dangling carried a death, his own, if not another's." Colonel George Dittmer was given instructions to counterattack. The battalion left their Platanias positions for the German-held areas to the west. As in Greece, confusion. Deadlines to begin the advance came and went. When the advance finally began, there was heavy opposition. They were very, very late. There were no tanks or Air Force support. Surrounded on land, strafed and bombed from the air, they carried on. So did the Germans.
Oh, so they had no help?
In kurzer Zeit ist der Flugplatz Malemes in deutscher Hand.
The Maleme aerodrome was one of the key areas to the control of Crete. It was an open door for the German occupying army. This hill overlooking the Maleme tarmac was the Maori objective. If captured, no enemy plane would have been able to land. The door would be locked. Under heavy fire, they battled their way through dense vegetation, guided by a system of irrigation canals.
The morning of the 22nd of May, we arrived above the aerodrome at Maleme and had a good look at the aerodrome, and we spotted a few of the Germans walking around. So I turned around and borrowed the Bren gun off one of my boys. And I got down and prepared to fire, and as soon as I squeezed the trigger, something happened. A bullet, a stray bullet or a bullet from a sharpshooter penetrated the barrel of my gun and split it open.
Whoa.
So it bowled me over, and there I was. And the first thing I thought about was my mother at home. And then I saw stars, I saw everything, and I thought, oh, this is beautiful. This is a lovely way of dying. And
you hear this? You heard that? This is a lovely way of
I
dying.
waited and waited. And then
Warrior spirit, huh?
Recovered, I suppose. And I stood up, and I looked around. The boy who was firing beside me, he was firing with his rifle. And I thought he had struck me with the barrel of his rifle. However, he was still firing, and then I asked him, "What happened? Did you hit me?" And he looked up and he said, "Oh," he said, "he was shot." Mind you, he didn't say it that way. He said a few words besides that. And then I fell down again and the blood started to pour. Prior to that, there was not a drop of blood. And then some of my boys rushed over and bandaged my face and so on and led me away to the RAP.
The attack failed. Orders came to withdraw. To prevent the exhausted soldiers being cut off by the enemy, the battalion were redeployed east of Hanyar, away from the action, they thought.
Then this is the direction of the counterattack.
Yes, we're right on it, I think. And prior to this, I had just returned to the battalion, but cousin came over to meet me, and we hid among some rushes because he had a can of fruit, preserved fruit. Didn't want any of the other company boys to see us. And lo and behold, we didn't know that the Germans were quite close to where we were until we heard the burst of machine gun fire, and there it was.
What was the reaction of the Germans when the bayonet charge began?
Well, the only thing they could do was to get as much shelter from the machine gun fire and so on. And they all got in behind these olive trees, as you see. Because of the clear path in between the trees, they had to use one tree for 20 men or something in a scrummage formation.
I see that. It was definitely built different.
The attack
this man's literally smiling about this now. Like, a lot of people nowadays, you know, got PTSD over something
standing
like
on
that.
their feet in a scrummage formation.
They
They were so
probably wouldn't be
thick
able to
that they were
sleep.
held up by the density of their bodies, you know.
German casualties were pretty heavy, so our blokes must have got right into them.
Well, I've seen one of my boys charged with the bayonet, and the tip of the bayonet went right through. One of his friends was so close, he just touched the tip of the bayonet, touched his friend. Well, as you said, Don, there'll be convulsions and I don't know what else. And there's a heck of a lot of shock as far as the recipient would be concerned.
Yes.
And
well, many times also the when the bayonet went in, they had to fire around from the rifle to create looseness so they could get it out.
Oh, in most cases, they just put their foot on the body of the opponent and jerk their rifle out. It's not so simple to pull it out because the muscles start to constrict. And, yeah.
The 42nd Street bayonet charge drove the Germans back nearly a mile, killing over 80 of them. Among the victims were cretins who had befriended the Maori and who had been used by the Germans as human shields.
You gotta be kidding me, bro.
The battle for Crete was lost. The New Zealand and Australian men wearily trudged the mountainous route to Sfakia, where the Navy would evacuate them. The Germans were too late to prevent the escape, but found nearly 6,000 men left behind. There had not been enough room on board for everyone. The final ignominy of failure.
6,000 men left that way?
It was terrible as far as we were concerned. Prior to deciding who were going to stay and so on, people were saying, well, you're married, you go, and so on. But the officers had the last word. We felt sad for them, and they felt sad for us because they thought, well, we might get bombed anyway. But when we got on the ship, of course, we were so pleased to get away from Crete, we forgot the others until we got back to Alexandria.
Η συνεισφορά των Γερμανών στη μάχη της Κρήτης ήταν πάρα πολύ μεγάλη. Μόνο να σκεφτεί κανείς ότι τόσες χιλιάδες μίλια μακριά από την πατρίδα τους βρεθήκαν εδώ να πολεμήσουν μαζί μας. Δεν μπορεί να το περιγράψει δηλαδή κανείς πόση μεγάλη συνεισφορά μας έκαναν. Και ακόμα εδώ σε αυτή την περιοχή μπορώ να πω πως ήταν αποκλειστικά έργο δικό τους όλοι οι Γερμανοί που σκοτωθήκαν εδώ. Διότι οι δικοί μας δεν μπορούσαν να πλησιάσουν, πολλά αεροπλάνα βρεθήκαν εδώ, είχαν κλειστεί και όπλα εμείς δεν είχαμε, μόνο από τις άκρες, μακριά από τα αεροδρόμια. Όλοι οι Γερμανοί που σκοτωθήκαν εδώ γύρω στην περιοχή οφείλεται εις τους Νεοζηλανδούς που υποστηρίζανε το αεροδρόμιο και το ύψωμα τούτο. Ο πόλεμος γενικά είναι μια καταστροφή, ένα κακό πράγμα βέβαια. Αυτό οφείλεται στη μεγαλομανία και στα συμφέροντα των μεγάλων, των τρελών, αποκλειστικώς. Που σκοτώνονται άνθρωποι που δεν ξέρουν καλά για ποιο σκοπό σκοτώνονται. Και εμείς είδαμε σε αυτό τον πόλεμο πάρα πολλά κακά, γιατί και ολοκαυτώσεις και καταστροφές και μεγάλα πράγματα γίνηκαν. Εν πάση περιπτώσει, εμείς για άλλη μια φορά λέμε ότι η συμβολή των Νεοζηλανδών εδώ υπήρξε μεγάλη και εμείς τους θεωρούμε σαν αδέρφια μας. Εδώ αυτόπτης μάρτυρας ο αείμνηστος ο πατεράκης ο Μανώλης ήρθε εδώ να ζητήσει βοήθεια από το απέναντι ύψωμα και είδε τους Νεοζηλανδούς να πολεμούν με το φλασκί, το κρασί από τη μια μεριά να πίνει και το όπλο να ρίχνουν στους εξωτερικές στην άλλη. Πολεμήσανε με θάρρος και ανδρεία. Αλλά τι τα θέλεις, ο πόλεμος είναι μια καταστροφή.
Η φήμη του τάγματος ήταν πολύ καλή, είχε δώσει σκληρές μάχες και εδώ και από το Μάλεμε μέχρι να έρθει εδώ πέρα. Σε αυτό το σημείο ήταν ίσως η τελευταία του μάχη και ήταν και αιματηρή μάχη. Το αποτέλεσμα φαίνεται από τους 320 Γερμανούς που σκοτωθήκαν, αφού στα χέρια πιαστήκανε με τους Γερμανούς. Γίνεται μεγάλη τελετή των ομοχανίων από τις αρχές, από το επίσημο κράτος, στο οποίο λαμβάνει μέρος όλος ο λαός, γιατί πιστεύει ότι αυτοί οι άνθρωποι ήρθαν από εκεί, από την άλλη άκρη του κόσμου και σκοτώθηκαν εδώ για την ελευθερία μας. Και εγώ προσωπικώς αισθάνομαι μεγάλη την υποχρέωση και κάθε χρόνο παρευρίσκομαι στο μνημόσυνο που γίνεται στο νεκροταφείο των συμμάχων, στο συμμαχικό νεκροταφείο της Σούδας, που είναι θαμμένοι και οι Μαόροι.
Problems with communications, supplies, and a vastly better organized foe contributed to the fiasco that was the bitter Grease Creek campaign.
If somebody's always in front of
First of all, I felt very embarrassed.
You better be happy that's taking place, you know what I'm saying?
Here I am, a prisoner of war.
We should be happy that we got people,
all my boys,
people that actually
taken over by
someone
else.
And
I
allow us to adapt and change,
you know,
to that. And they help us.
I wondered how long I would be in captivity. And sort of feeling of being left behind by the left of the lads. And sadness, I suppose, that I wasn't quite sure whether I'll see any of my boys again ever. Well, that was how I felt at that time.
After 2 years in captivity at various prisoner of war camps, Hemi and a handful of other Maori were brought here to the Bavarian town of Eichstätt, to the camp Oflag 7B, the site of the district's police college.
Takukainga la te ri mo ngā tau e rua i te wāpakanga, te mutunga i te wāpakanga la. Hei mai tau ki matakitiki haere. Ingali kua huarere ke haere rai nai nei. Aye, this is where I was 50 years ago.
That's crazy. You can go back to somewhere, bro. 50 years and you're in a war and it's still there, man. And that's what all the memories that you're seeing right now.
Hasn't changed much down there. Yes. Our huts were down there. All the Maori boys were in the huts down there. Hena Ringata, Tengarangi, Anuridi.
There was little point for Maori to even attempt escape. A brown skin marked them more clearly than any uniform. Better then to accept their position and wait for the war's end.
Crazy.
All movements night and day were overseen by the guards, led by Hauptfeldwebel Hugo Zinser.
Auf der Kommandantur der Hauptfeldwebel, dem unterstanden ein Stab von 120 Offizieren, Verwaltungsbeamte, Abwehrleute und dann vor allem eine große Verwaltung.
This camp, being an officers' camp, it was very, very heavily guarded. Many more guards than any other camp. And most of these fellas were fairly elderly. A lot of them were people who were sent back from Russia, and they had no further use for them in the army as fighters. So they sent them here as guards. Good day.
Sie waren im Lager.
You just said you were here as a prisoner.
Mich wollen Sie nicht mehr kennen, wahrscheinlich.
Okay.
Ich bin nicht so viel mit den Gefangenen beisammen gewesen.
I said it's difficult to remember your particular face, but he was always with you all for the whole time he was here. But let me please first of all introduce you. We'll start with the lady. This is Paula Walker.
Ja.
Das ist die Großnichte von Narimu, vom Zweiten Weltkrieg. Hat die höchste Auszeichnung, Victoria Cross, gewonnen.
Ja.
Und sie ist dabei, weil Narimu, als diese Auszeichnung gewonnen haben, ist gefallen.
Ja.
Herr Zinser.
Schön.
And this is Captain Hemi Widemu.
Ja. Ja.
This is Canon Wee Huata.
Ja.
He was a reverend,
Ja.
a padre von der Maori Battalion in
Sie
Italien.
sind Padres.
Yes.
In England? Ne?
In English. Der war der Padre, der Reverend für die Maori Battalion in Nordafrika, in Italien.
Italien.
And this is Herr Zinser. He was Master Sergeant here, and as he said, in inverted commas, the most important man in the camp.
Oh, yes.
He was the one who had to give the orders and pass them all on to you all.
Ah, yes,
and
yes.
This is Herr Strauss.
Yo, bro,
Nice to meet you.
you're shaking the hands of the people you
wounded
fought.
on the
Like,
Russian front, came back and had the good luck, he said himself, to have been told you can stay
don't know,
here.
bro.
And he was in
I
charge
bring a
of the
knife.
post.
You gotta fight me to the death right now.
Fragen Sie mal, ob Sie nicht erinnern können, Paketausgabe.
Yeah.
Paketausgabe.
Can you remember
Ja.
him in the post office? He said
No.
before that he was in charge of having to sort out sometimes up to 3,000 pieces of mail a week.
All I can remember is that all the letters I got, half of it was blacked out. The English letters.
Kann nur erinnern, dass von meisten von den Briefen, das erhalten habe, halb davon war
You blacked out my letters. Got him.
Das habe ich nicht gemacht.
He said, I didn't do it.
Tell him that the only letters they didn't black out were the Maori ones because they can't translate them.
Hat gesagt, die einzigen Briefe, wo das vollständig waren, waren die in Maori geschrieben. Weil keiner könnte hier die Wörter verstehen.
You don't remember me with the bald head?
Sie können seinen Glatzkopf nicht erinnern?
Yeah, that's
Seinen
tough.
Glatzkopf zu
Ja,
können-
sicher. Ich habe ihn ja gesagt, ich kann mich genau noch erinnern. Dann, ja, genau.
He can remember you exactly.
So,
Yes.
dann-
Good. It's very pleasing to get back here. Brings back all the sad memories of myself and the other Maori boys particularly, some of whom have now passed on. I think of the times we were together, and all our other friends, of course. And although at the time I wanted to get out of here, it's nice to be back just once more to have a look at it and bring back memories of those days nearly 50 years ago.
With their base established at Mahdi near Cairo, the New Zealand soldiers struggled to come to terms with their home for the next 2 years, the vast North African desert.
Whew.
Men in wide
That's
spaces.
a tough place, boy.
With nothing in view but the horizon and the blazing sun is very, very puny and insignificant. The forces of nature are too great to imagine, and the New Zealand division passing through a strange country with strange conditions had to adjust themselves very quickly to the whole scene.
You better believe it.
They learned one of the truths of war, that actual combat is often a sudden climax to long periods of inactivity, boredom, and endless hard work.
Exactly.
Recreation and sports were physically beneficial and good for morale. They did not, however, replace for most a man's home and family. Bully Jackson writing home to his mother.
How are you tonight, Mum? Well, I hope. As for me, I am well. That's one thing I can say about myself. But I'm slightly browned off with this life. I want to go home.
Strong bonds of friendship, already born of tribal links and deepened by mutual fear and struggle, countered the loneliness and became a powerful spur for the battalion's successes. No soldier could afford to let down his mates, and there was something comforting about being a member of a group with such identity and purpose. For the women at home in New Zealand, the exhilaration of young love had also been interrupted by war. They were lonely partners in marriage, often faced with offspring who had never known a father's caress.
Let's hope that I'll be home soon, and may all your worries about me be over. And Noni's too. It seems as though I've the biggest thrill of my life waiting for me at home. Little Derna. She must be a hard case, all right. Does she suck her thumb, Mum? So it's good night. Love to all, Mary, Irwin, Kathy, Ty, Dad, and the same many times to yourself. May we all meet again soon. Have some muscles ready, Mum. Your loving son, Bully.
Everything was fear. When you went into action, it was all fear. I mean, you had fear of being wounded, fear of being maimed, fear of being killed, fear of letting your troops down, your side down.
Hey man, fear is a powerful emotion, boy.
It's just one whole
it can make or break you.
It's only when you given notice that you are going to do a certain attack, you have fear, right? I mean, I just can't understand anybody not having fear. But there are so many things you have to do prior to that attack. You forget about fear. You forget it. And by the time you get to the start line and you're ready to
shoot the younger sibling in the leg.
You lost.
Crazy,
absolutely lost as far as fear is concerned. You concentrate on what you have to do after that. With the result, you do the job without worrying.
Anything it takes now to make sure that we don't go to war, huh?
But you keep on going.
You know, you used to feel sorry for our officer, for the Maori officers. While the soldiers are crawling on the ground, you know, they expect the officer to stand. He's supposed to be extra. And I used to admire these fellas, keeping the morale. Yeah. And those who are leading the Maori Battalion, they have to boost their men up going forward.
Destroying the enemy is a reality of war. When the killing happened at long range, it could be very impersonal. The delivery of death at close range was not so easy.
My two subordinates and myself went down some stairway into a concrete air raid shelter. And in the shelter was a German officer and two Italians. And as I stepped off the last step of this stairway, I noticed that the Italian, who had his hands up, and they all had their hands up in a camarade position, had a red object in his hand. I knew immediately that it was an Italian grenade. They painted all their grenades red for some reason or other. And so I had to shoot the three of them with a Tommy gun. Mm. And that was my first introduction to killing, as we put it. And it was very sad, actually, a sad moment, because I went through the captain's belongings and personal effects, and found a picture of himself and his three lovely children. And this was a very traumatic moment for me, because one soldier relates to another.
At the beginning of the Desert Campaign, the Germans seemed certain to overwhelm the Allies. Rommel's progress was hampered by difficulties with supplies and was finally arrested at El Alamein, when they were forced to retreat. Individual stories of heroism abound. At Miterea Ridge, stretcher bearer Corporal James Pirihi braved intense shell fire to tend to the wounded and bury the dead. Once, in the face of enemy machine gun fire, he dressed the wounds of a German soldier and carried him to safety. At Gazala, Private Charlie Shelford saved his encircled platoon. He ran 300 yards toward an enemy machine gun post, shooting from the hip. Despite taking shrapnel from 3 grenades and having his own gun smashed, he grenaded the enemy position and began the collapse of resistance in that area. From the Libyan campaign onwards, Mr. Charles Bennett, a Pākehā civilian, was in charge of Te Reo Aroha, a mobile canteen given by the Maori children of New Zealand. Charlie Y.M. drove the beloved van in the fiercest of battles to keep the men supplied with cigarettes, sweets, razors and other goods from home.
So he basically the hustler.
Wir haben vor El Alamein haben wir Maori-Soldaten gefangen genommen. Das waren gute Kämpfer, das wussten wir. Von der Infanterie, ich war nicht Infanterie, ich war Panzeraufklärung im Spähwagen und wir haben das gewusst von der Infanterie, dass sie sehr harte, gute Leute waren.
Ja, das waren schon tapfere Soldaten und wie gesagt gut ausgebildet. Denn Minen, das war immer ein teuflisches Geschäft, mit Minen zu arbeiten. Sie müssten so gut ausgebildet gewesen sein, dass denen nie was passiert ist. Manchmal ging doch eine Mine hoch beim Verlegen, wenn man ein Zinder kam oder irgendetwas. Und die Maoris haben die Minen da ausgegraben, noch auf die Seite gelegt, ohne irgendwie anzugreifen. Entweder war das eine Art Sport oder wollten sie uns ärgern oder irgendetwas. Auf alle Fälle ist an sich gar nichts passiert, kein Angriff von Maoris, sondern nur die Minen ausgegraben, auf die Seite gelegt und am Morgen waren sie wieder weg.
The push northwards to meet the First Army in Tunisia continued. When a pass was found which would enable the Allies to outflank strong fortifications, the battalion went in. The battle for Tebega Gap started with heavy artillery and air support. Colonel Charles Bennett assigned C Company under Peter Awatere to take a German-held feature Point 209. From the base of a hill later called Hikurangi, Lieutenant Wanangarimu led his platoon straight up the steep rocky slopes. He single-handedly wiped out 2 enemy strongposts. His kinsman, Corporal Wiwi Teneti, kept 2 machine gun nests quiet until his men could outflank and destroy them. From only yards away, the Germans charged with their bayonets. They were repulsed. By nightfall, Awatere and Ngarimu were both wounded. They refused to seek attention and held back repeated bayonet charges. Only when his wounds reduced him to crawling about did Awatere agree to get medical assistance. Ngarimu stayed. Throughout the night, he kept his men awake and alert for continual German attacks. Each time they were driven back by bullet, bayonet, and even stones used as makeshift grenades. On and on the battle went. Both sides were mauled by horrific casualties. Through the carnage, Ngarimu exhorted his men to greater effort. At daybreak, he was killed during an advance, his body falling on top of those he had just shot. The German casualties became insupportable. Appeals from them for medical aid signaled the beginning of the end of the battle. Ngarimu's leadership and bravery inspired Colonel Bennett to recommend him for the Victoria Cross.
I took him back to the cemetery, already prepared, and laid him to rest there. Well, you know, it's a sad occasion when you spend all night fighting, and then you have to turn around and bury your comrades. And looking back on it, I still get very emotional about it. It's a thing that I'll never forget, and I don't think any soldier who served over here, overseas, will ever forget the war. A lot of people say that the war is over. It's been over nearly 50 years, but to a soldier, it'll be there always. You can't take that away from them. And being back here, I can see all the battle in operation. The dive bombers, and especially remember the pilots that failed to pull out of their dive and go crashing into the hills across the way there. And then the tanks and the infantry riding on the tanks, and the infantry falling off as they're being shot at from the Germans. All those things, even and our own chaps going into the shells, and chaps wounded. You never forget those things.
How can you? Definitely can't.
The next engagement was at Tekruna. During this battle, 12 out of 17 officers were casualties, including Colonel Bennett. New leaders and tactics had to be found quickly.
Well, there is confusion, all right, but at the same time, every man attacking would try and get into position as best they can. And it is very difficult, but in the main, we seem to get to our objective altogether. And that was the main thing about it. But on this instance, the Tekruna hill up here was a big obstacle.
لا نحلف البقرة والرجايل يرضعوا والكعبة ضربت في الحيط. هي ضربت في الحيط، هي مجيه علي قريبة. وانا هربت وليدي منها، خليتك الحلاب والبقرة والكل. وهربت طبيت للبيت.
وانت شكون تعمل؟
ايه كيف يدهم علينا المان. الانجليز وخر التالي والمان حبس حدانا.
وانت شكون تعمل لك الوقت هذاك؟
نطيب فطورنا. اخي نطيب فطورنا والله العظيم فطورنا راس بالله عندي كي توكل. والمان من شد هنا نحن جينا في الوسط هربنا. ما بذرنا ما ذرناش. ما مرتاحوا رانا مرتاحوا قدامنا ونحن نجار وعربي. البلاد كلها مسكنا.
Tekruna was a massive rock edifice which dominated the surrounding countryside. The Italians and Germans intended to hold it at all costs. B Company's part in the assault involved Sergeants Manahi and Rogers. With about half a dozen men each, they fought their way up Tekruna's awesome sheer face. They took the village on top, but the enemy soon counterattacked. Manahi climbed back down and returned with reinforcements. There was a desperate battle. Soldiers were shot, bayoneted, and pushed over the cliff. For 2 days, Takruna was hidden in the haze of battle. Its capture by the battalion caused England's General Horrocks to remark that it was the most gallant feat of arms he had witnessed during the war. Decorations highlight individual heroism, but hide the fact that the Maori Battalion always fought as one, becoming a startlingly effective fighting unit.
In the Maori Battalion, all the men we had were nothing but the best. They were second to none. And whatever decorations the officers have in the Maori Battalion belong to the men, to the battalion as a whole.
Well, I wonder why he joined the war. I know I wouldn't have. If I was a man that age and it was voluntary, I wouldn't have joined it. I see when it gets mentioned that I can see the hurt in Nanny's eyes, and I feel sorry for her, and I have to think, just like every other company, C Company was just like every other company. And I know it's had the highest casualty number. Most people were wounded. It just makes me wonder why they joined, and so many of them died. They were so young. I have to wonder why they joined.
Those are fighters, men.
It's what gets me the most, why they joined. If it was voluntary, why they joined.
Somebody get that old man out the heat. It's hot out there. Why you ain't got no hat on? Exactly. Many legacies have been cut short because of war, man.
Kai te tui te kōraha, te rua te kau, te iwa, te ana mahia mai te whiti. I roto i te marama kauwhanga, maono o te tau Māori. Ngai whiti a naunau, whiringa ārangi, tatau uruora, tama te ngana, taururangi, tamaroto, tūranga roto, ta Māori ko mata o te rangi, o te waka tapu, rua te kaumawaru. Haere, haere, haere. Haere I runga I te whakahere nui kaore aro te tahi. I rahi e ki tēnei. Ara ke tuku tangati iai anō. Ke mat mona hoa. Ngā maunga tapu. O Kirihi. O Kiriti. O Ihipa. O Tūnahira. Itari. Ngā maunga whakamātanga ki a koutou. Me te whakaparota ngā kau. Koutou. Nā koutou I whakapai te huarahi. Puta mai mātou I teriwa. I te tū I runga. Te ruatakau. te iwa. Haere, haere, haere. Ko te whakataua ki a hopa. Kāri mei mori e mai tātou I tēni ao. He mea mara
What's good,
mano
Jose,
tēni.
man? Shout out to you for joining the
kore
stream.
a he
You know
te
what
moe
I'm saying?
tātou te tahi mea.
You gotta turn that bell
Nā
on,
ihoa,
man.
iho
You know what
mai.
I mean? You gotta definitely turn
Nā
that bell
iho
on.
I tango.
I'm gonna
Kia
be doing
whakapainga
a
te
lot
ingoa
more
iho.
streams. A lot more streams.
Ka ki te ahi kia koutou.
In regards to different cultures, you know what
Kia
I'm saying?
koutou.
So appreciate you subscribing.
Atu mata
Turn that bell on, man.
Ko ta tangi tēni a te iwi Māori mō koutou. Ko ta mō tea tēni a te iwi Māori mō koutou. Tō koutou hinginga he hatonu. Ākua kua te koutou, tēnei te kōrero. E te atua kaharawa, a te whaitea manaki tia. Ngā tainui pare ka rangaranga, e reo hiri range whakahua, a te whai o te aroa. Te rua te kaumawara, ngā tamatoa atu matauenga. Ka rehe aroha I rahi e ki tēnei, kia tuku te tanga te iaia no, kia mate mōna hoa. Ngā waka o te rua te kaumawara, mamare, mamaru, mahu I te rangi. Ngā toki mata whaurua kura pō, mā tātua te arawa horauta. O te toko maru, tainui, tāki te mu. Ngā mau tere rarotonga, hamoa tonga. E hoa ho ngā mano a te whaitia, aro haina rua te kaumawara. Haere, haere, haere.
That was beautiful. And, you know, before this goes off, I wanted to say something. And, you know, when Hunt Tewa said that no one speaks like this anymore, straight from the heart, it's because the older people have been the door has been shut on them, right? Think about it like this. Older people, they have something that younger people don't have, and younger people have something that older people don't have. You go to older people for wisdom because they've been through things. They've seen things. They know a lot. You go to younger people for technology, for ideas. Why? Because they still have a passion to learn more. They have inspiration, right? So that's why you have to keep a balance between the two. You can't forget about the old people, because the older you get, the more you've seen and you understand things a lot more. But when you're young, you have a drive. You know, you want to change the world. You want to see things change. You're in the game right now. So that's why I think the two is necessary. If you really want to build a great foundation, you have to have both. And a lot of younger people now are forgetting that the older people made a way for you. You know what I'm saying?
In Italy, mountainous country made progress difficult. It was a war of attrition. The victor would be the side who inflicted the most casualties. At Pascuccio, Corporal Henry Barrett scaled a cliff and destroyed a machine gun post. His men then fixed bayonets and wiped out other positions. Barrett himself killed 9 Germans. Captain Monty Wikirifi displayed magnificent leadership and tactics at Cassino before being severely wounded. He refused to imperil his men by being carried out. With shattered legs, he dragged himself along the ground under fire for 15 hours to safety. For 2 days on the outskirts of Popiano, under very heavy shell fire, Captain Tomwana ran between platoons, rallying and urging them on until the enemy tanks and infantry withdrew. On 4th of August, 1944, the liberation of Florence.
Our interest in Florence was exciting. I was with Colonel Owatere, and we were on the jeep, and it was sort of a competition between the 23rd Battalion and the 28th Battalion to enter Florence. And it came over the air for the battalion to take cover. Just came over. And we took cover, and then they rained the place with shelling. And I was an eyewitness to many, many of the people who came out to meet us die, children, women. But none of us got killed there because we understood it and we took cover.
The Maori soldiers and the Italian people rapidly acquired a liking for each other. They found much in common with communal lifestyles and a joint love of song.
In the face.
Io mi ricordo che c'erano dei Maori.
The Maori proved adept at learning the languages of whichever country they found themselves in. The Maori language, too, became a code which could not be broken by German intelligence. In Italy, there was humorous confusion over the Maori habit of greeting the locals. The Maori "Kia ora" sounded very similar to the Italian for "What's the time?"
Un altro uomo disse, ma questi Maori sono quelli che dicono sempre che ore sono, che ore sono. No, a man, two men, two Italian old men. E Maori pass from there, che ora? And so the one man said, oh, it's 9 o'clock. After 5 minutes, he came back. Kia ora, I told you it's 9 o'clock, but now it's 5 past 9.
I want to get up and start haka and this thing.
Helping out the wounded, then we came across this area where a Pākehā fella was under a carrier. Leg. And so my rabbi said to me, Padre, we got 3 minutes. 3 minutes. And we must get out of this place. So the I grabbed something, it looked like an axe to me anyway. So I just grabbed hold of it and cut his leg off.
What the?
And threw him under the jeep. And when no sooner we pulled out, down came the shelling. So we got over. Then Ravidi said to me, "Ehua, korora tau?" You know that A company language. And I said, "Yes." We nearly died, eh? However, and as far as I was concerned, I think there was no hope for this fella because he was bleeding and things like that. And I never come across him till many years after I was taken in Anzac in Waitara. And who should turn up was this fella. I did know him. And he just said to me, or he introduced his wife, "This is the man that saved me." That's it. And when he mentioned fire, as soon as he said the crossroad, off I went and just told the story. I said, well, I'm glad that we're back. And but many experiences like that took place, because never. And then when you had the tie-up, look, the fellowship or the brotherhood in the Pāka Maori was just so. Just so.
This pig is for the Maori Battalion, and to her new owner, she shows an almost dog-like devotion. Bringing home the wine is a responsible job. The first step in turning pig into pork, and for the onlookers, quite a cheering sight. After weeks and months on tinned bully beef, this is certainly a sight worth watching.
Tinned bully
Tomorrow
beef.
will be a lovely day.
Yo. I grew up on that.
The classically beautiful city of Florence was a warm host to the Maori Battalion, as were its citizens. Fighting in the desert had not generally affected the local populations. In Italy, however, the presence of so many people living in and around the battlegrounds meant difficulty for the soldiers and danger for the innocent.
Exactly.
The Maori soldiers had a belief in their ability to fight, as well as a deep belief in God and the hereafter. The 5 padres who served with the battalion were vital to the men's morale.
Got plenty belts to sell. Yes, good prices for you. Good? Yes. Discount? Sure. 10% discount today. Oh, that's very good. Because it's cloudy. Cloudy. Yeah.
At the age of 26, Wee Huata was in the front line, comforting the wounded and ministering to the dead. War forced him to redefine his faith.
Do you like this place? Sure. It's fun. Very good. It's fun to send to people. My stuff have 6 months guarantee.
I was quite clear in my mind to destroy the enemy, so I prayed that way. And I firmly believe that the Maori Battalion should go home alive. And so my prayers went that way. Destroy the enemy so that we could get home to New Zealand quickly and everybody alive. And so when the fellow used to say to me, "Hey, Padre, what about that part thou shalt not kill?" I said, "Oh, don't worry about that too much." I said, "Either you or him."
We were always prepared spiritually, and when we went into battle, we felt we had somebody watching over us. And when we came up against the enemy, well, it was either him or us. And I'm sure he felt the same way about it. That was the story behind it. And without that spiritual build-up before, and if we ever went into battle without it, oh, we felt there was something wrong. Yeah. We weren't the same troops. That's how I felt it, and I'm sure the boys felt the same way.
Well, although I was behind barbed wire at that time and I wasn't with you fellas, my prayers were always for you and the battalion to get home safely, whatever happens.
The Benedictine monastery, founded in 529 AD, overlooked the township of Cassino. It was thought to contain German snipers. In one of the most remembered but also futile decisions of the Italian campaign, this sacred place of God was delivered of 600 tons of high explosives. Before their attack on the Cassino railway station, the Maori soldiers of A and B companies gathered together in the warm dusk of a beautiful day. They attended to personal matters. Some wrote letters, while others cleared their pockets in case of capture. When the Padre arrived, there was a feeling amongst the two companies that this battle was going to be tough. They were not to know that of 200 men, only 70 would return to fight again. The Padre called them to prayer and said, "Father, look down upon us this moment. Help us to do that which we have to do. Tonight, take those that you want. Tomorrow, let us weep those that are left. Through thy Son, Jesus Christ, let us go on."
Yeah, boys. I guess that's the ending of that one, man. Some parts of that was tough to watch. I'm glad they put, that was well put together with the regarding that battalion. I learned a lot, and I can say that you guys earned a lot. It sucks to say though. I don't like war. I really don't. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's mandatory because we are human beings. We are people, and sometimes we just can't agree with just our words, as history has shown. But this right here was a great look into that 20th battalion. I'm definitely gonna be watching more of them as well. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Odds. He says, I appreciate your insight and time. I appreciate you taking time to also learn about our battalions. No, definitely, bro. You know what I mean? And I definitely appreciate you guys, like I always say, allowing yourselves to come in and show me even more so I can learn more as well. It's just your culture is very interesting. I thought I was gonna end it right with the reggae, but I knew that wasn't. And some part of me knew that wasn't gonna be it because you guys were still so new to me. I'm just learning about you guys, and the culture's it's a pretty interesting and they play a lot. I didn't know how much you guys play in the role of human civilization. So it's definitely a learning. It's definitely a learning experience, and I hope you guys never die out. I hope you guys have a whole bunch of babies. You know what I mean? Y'all keep that culture going for as long as possible, because you guys are some great people, man. But what I just watched just a while ago really opened my eyes to a lot of things. You know what I mean? Exactly. You know what I mean? So you're never going to find out by just the media everything that you need to know, right? So it's always good to have people on here who had complete hindsight, complete view of what was going on and what is going on. So like I said, I'm going to be adding a lot more cultures as well. And, I hope you guys are open to learning about other cultures as well so that, they feel more comfortable when their people come in and they actually start watching the videos with us as well. You guys can share, cultures within. You know what I mean? So, anyway, it's your boy, I Refuse to Shoot, man. I appreciate you guys coming through and watching that with me. Like I said, man, if you're not on the Twitch account, if you don't have one, you need to get a Twitch. Get on my Twitch, I Refuse to Shoot. That's where we're going to start watching movies as well. We're going to be watching movies on Twitch, doing a lot more documentaries on here. After I hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to open the door for a lot more streaming. Hopefully not by next year, but like the ending of this year, I'll have more time on my hands where I can actually come in, make a lot more videos for you guys, and take trips over to New Zealand, Australia, and many other places around the world where we can actually start learning about more cultures. You know what I mean? So, with that being said, you guys, thank you for tuning in. All right? And whenever you need, if you need to ask me anything to react, please don't hesitate. Leave it in the comments. If you know my Instagram, it's I Refuse to Shoot. You can always DM me, and I'll definitely, have that information. Look, guys, I'm tired. I should be doing another reaction video in a little bit too as well. Should be dropping that after this. All right. But anyway, let me stop talking. Let me shut up. I can go on for hours. It's your boy, I Refuse to Shoot. Make sure you call somebody you love and tell them you love them, because you never know when they're gone, right? As we can see. And with that being said, I'm out of here. Y'all take care.